Hi, I'm Joan Red, and today I'll be taking you through America's apology note to the Industrial Revolution, the Gilded Age. So America had just exited from the industrial frenzy of the Industrial Revolution, and with that came a lot of opportunity. Our economy was running along just fine, and as is custom for success, other people want a bit more in on that action. After incidences such as Ireland's potato famine or the eventual tempest of World War I, Europe was left basically in shambles, as well as general economic depression in the region. The promise of wealth and land was greatly appealing to many Europeans. So they did what mankind has been good at from the very beginning 2,000 years ago, picking something up and pushing it somewhere else. Though many of their possessions did have to stay behind as the trip was extremely costly. Once they got to the sea, the immigrants had to travel in ships, which was terrible, to Ellis Island, which is terrible, and on to New York, which was terrible. And also by this time, many of them were also penniless. Now the housing situation in New York was appalling to say the least. With the massive influx of people, it was not at all uncommon to place 2, 3, 4 families in the same apartment. Now New York at the time had largely 3 bodies of people. The small upper class, the robber barons, groups of billionaire business owners, whose trusts and monopolies basically ran the country, a small middle class, and an extremely large lower class filled with immigrants and other minorities. One of these minorities being the African American population, still very much being taken advantage of by the upper class. Shortly after the Civil War and the abolition of slavery, certain laws began popping up around the South, going under the name of Jim Crow after a popular archetype from known performer Thomas Rice, who did blackface and made fun of black people for laughs. He obviously would have had a great career in Fox News. Yet there were people speaking out against the brutal conditions that workers lived under. Going under the name of muckrakers, these people were largely journalists and photographers seeking to expose the upper classes, corruption, and systemic classism that ran rampant through the 1900s America. The issue is that while they were able to shock the middle class, they weren't very good at offering a lot of solutions. This meant that the lower class was either ignored or the help was put in the wrong place, like is the case with Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, which, rather than leading to safer working conditions, only led to healthier packaging. Along with the press expressing their dissatisfaction of the way things were being run, the Progressive Party had been slowly but surely building over time. And eventually the first progressive president, Teddy Roosevelt, was elected. From Roosevelt to Wilson, these presidents played a large part in breaking up the trusts and monopolies that were around nationwide, greatly deteriorating the power of the big businesses for a while. Along with the progressives, the African American community was making large strides towards equality by challenging the status quo. In 1892, Homer Plessy, an African American man, purchased a first-class ticket onto a train, knowing full well of the Separate Car Act, and when asked to vacate his seat, he refused and was soon arrested. This, along with general civic unrest, led great leaders such as Du Bois and Washington to advocate for equal treatment, paving the way for the eventual civil rights movement of the 1950s that was soon to come. Perhaps the best way to describe the Gilded Age would be through the origins of the name itself. From Mark Twain's book, The Gilded Age, A Tale of Today. The external glitter of wealth conceals a corrupt political core that reflects the growing gap between the very few rich and the very many poor. And, as always, never watch this again.